That's my advice. Except maybe don't cry, because sometimes crying is not very fun. Hi everybody, welcome back to my channel. The last video of 2022, I think this is actually going up on the 1st though. So, first video of 2023. Happy New Year. Welcome to 2023. I hope you had a good time last night. If you are 21 plus and partook in the alcohol, I hope your hangover is not awful. I am vibing and putting out in the universe that you don't have a hangover. And if you do, I hope you feel better. I don't really have any hangover cures. I usually just lay in bed and cry until it goes away. Yeah, that's my advice. Except maybe don't cry, because sometimes crying is not very fun. The last day of December was yesterday, which means it is a reading wrap-up time. It is time to show you everything that I read in December. It was a fairly small month. Most of what I read has been mentioned in my previous two videos. Last week's video of my favorite books of the year had some of these in it. I will tag that. And my video 2 or 3 weeks ago was pretty much everything else. I will tag that one. It is Christmas romance recommendations. There's 1 or 2 that aren't in those videos. But I bring to you all of the books that I read in December. If you can see this tiny pile, most of them were on Kindle. Starting off, a book that wasn't on Kindle, The Butcher and the Wren by Elena Urquhart. I 4-starred this book. Also, I couldn't get the Target sticker off. It is on there pretty hard, so thanks for that, Target. I was very disappointed in myself. I bought this at Target because it was the only one on the shelf and it sells it all the time. To then go to Barnes & Noble where they had 4 signed editions. So I was like, cool. I snagged this at Target because I didn't think I was going to find anywhere, only to go to Barnes & Noble 30 minutes later and find 4 signed copies. So, lovely. But we did talk about this in last week's video. Again, I'll tag that if you want to watch it. This is a book written by Elena Urquhart. She is the co-host of the Morbid True Crime podcast. I'm a big fan of that podcast, which is why it led me to reading this book. But overall, I like reading thrillers, murder mysteries, all that jazz, and that's what this is. Elena is an autopsy tech, so she was able to kind of put in... Atlas likes to lick my soda cans, and I feel like that's not healthy, so I have to hide them anytime he's in the room because he comes and licks like where I drink out of, and that's gross. But Elena is an autopsy tech, so she's able to just give details that I feel like aren't in most books. Not that this book is necessarily like super graphic and makes you want to throw up. I personally am fine with the level of details this book went to. I feel like most thrillers are just like, oh, she was dead. Like, her having the medical knowledge, I feel like she was able to like make everything feel more real because she knew how to explain things. So I thought that was a really cool aspect. I'll read you the opening to this book. Something dark is lurking in the Louisiana bayou. A methodical serial killer with a penchant for medical experimentation is hard at work completing his most harrowing crime yet, taunting the authorities who desperately try to catch up. But forensic pathologist Dr. Ren Muller is the best there is. Armed with an encyclopedic knowledge of historical crimes and years of experience working in the medical examiner's office, she's never encountered a case she couldn't solve until now. Case after case is piling up on Ren's examination table, and soon she is sucked into an all-consuming cat-and-mouse chase with a brutal murderer getting more brazen by the day. An addictive read with straight-from-the-morgue details only an autopsy technician could provide. The Butcher and the Wren promises to ensnare all who enter. And it did. I love this book. It was great. I do believe that her plan is to make this like a series because this does leave on the biggest cliffhanger she could possibly think of, and I hate her for that and I love her for that. So if you want a one and done book, this is not it. But if you want like a potential thriller murder mystery series, I definitely suggest this one. It was very good. I loved it. One of my favorite reads of the month. So then getting over to Kindle with a lot of the books that I've mentioned previously, I have Christmas in Quincy, which I 4-starred. This is a prologue that is Christmas themed to the Eden series. It's a series that I really want to read. I haven't gotten to yet, and while looking for Christmas books I found the prologue to it, bodyguard romance, but with it being like a prologue novella, it was only like 250 pages, so it's not the most in-depth book in terms of character development and plot and all of that. It's very condensed, but I thought it was good. I feel like I've read a lot of like novella prologue things that are that short and I don't like. I like this enough to 4-star it, and it definitely makes me excited to read the Eden series once I get my grubby little hands on it. And And then again, mentioned last week, Baggage Claim. I also 4-starred that book. This was one that I didn't expect to like as much as I did. I don't know what about it, but I thought that this was gonna be maybe like a 2 or a 3-star. I liked it a lot more than I did. It is fake dating, boy falls first, this whole issue of figuring out the family drama that's happening and why everyone is so on eggshells with each other. I love Finn, the male love interest. He is one of my favorite. I love him to death. It takes place in Aspen, Colorado at a ski resort, so it's just very like Christmas at a ski resort. It's great. I loved it so much more than I thought I would. So if you're still in the mood for some Christmas books, I definitely recommend it. Followed up with Faking Under the Mistletoe that I 3-starred. This is probably one of my least favorite of like my Christmas book recommendation ones. This is fake dating workplace romance. I feel like sometimes I had a hard time feeling the romance between the two characters. And I like the whole fake dating thing, but I wasn't necessarily a fan of how the fake dating started. So like, I liked it and I read it. I would recommend it, but there are definitely other ones that I read that I liked a little bit better. So this was just a 3-star for me. And then I got, out of my book of the month, I got Kiss It Once For Me by Alison Cockrum. This is LGBTQ Christmas. So if you want a Christmas holiday type book that is LGBTQ friendly, this one definitely has that. It takes place in Portland, Oregon. I 3-starred this one. My biggest complaint was there was a lot of the miscommunication trope. That was pretty much the overarching like plot and problem was miscommunication. And I'm okay with that here and there, but I am not the biggest fan of it being the entire plot. And it was the entire plot. And I got a little bit tired of it after a while. I was just like, can everybody tell the truth now so this can be over? Just went on a little too much for me. But LGBTQ, it was still good and I do recommend it. But if you're also not a big miscommunication trope person, it might also be a little bit annoying, but it's not bad. It didn't make me DNF it or stop reading it. On the other hand, In Holidays by Christina Lauren, I DNF'd so quickly. Did not realize that this book was a trapped in time thing where something happens and they repeat the same day over and over until they figure out what other problem they're supposed to figure out. I'm not a fan of those types of books. That's why I've never read books like Addie LaRue and all that. I'm not a fan of the repeating time type books. And that's what this is. It didn't really catch me to begin with when I first started reading it. And then once I figured out like the 75 pages in that it was a repeat in time book, I DNF'd it. It's not my thing. I read it, that's why it wasn't included in my holiday book thing, because I don't recommend it. It's not my personal recommendation. If you are an Addie LaRue person and you like kind of a time travel, skip back and forth type thing, then I think you will like it, but it wasn't for me. So then the last book that I talked about in the Christmas romance recommendations is Mistletoe Problem. I also 3-starred this one. This was another one that was like, wasn't necessarily my favorite out of all the ones that I read, but it wasn't bad. And to be honest, I feel like I don't remember that much about that book. I literally was sitting here trying to explain this book to you and I was like, what do I remember from that book? So that's why it's 3 stars. I feel like it kind of blended in with most other holiday books. So it was okay and I recommended it, but it wasn't necessarily one that super stuck out to me, so I 3-starred it. So then, moving on to just other books that I read towards the end of the holiday season, I read Better Than Fiction by Alexa Martin. It was very cute. I 3-starred this one. It had a really good romance, and I just wanted more from it. Like, boy falls first, kind of grumpy sunshine-ish. Our main character, Drew, she inherits a bookstore from her grandmother. It's one that her grandmother has owned her entire life. She passes away and leaves it to Drew. Drew is not a reader. She doesn't like books. She's a reality TV type girly, which like me too, but I also like books. So she wants to keep this bookstore going in the name of her grandma, but she doesn't know anything about reading. She's not interested in it. So she's not necessarily like getting the PR that the bookstore needs. It's definitely going downhill now that she buys it. And she does like an author signing interview thing with Jasper Williams, who is in this storyline a really big romance writer. And so she invites him to do a signing and stuff at the bookstore, and it goes really well. He decides that he's going to stay in her hometown because he wants to base his next book around the hometown. So he asks Drew to kind of be his tourist and show her around the town and like different things he should include in the book. And at the same time, any sort of place around town she brings him, he wants to find a book that relates to that she has to read. She's trying to make him fall in love with the town while he's also trying to make her fall in love with reading, which, spoiler alert, makes them fall in love with each other because it's a romance book. So I thought that that was like a really unique plotline that I haven't read before, but I definitely feel like I wanted more of it sometime. The beginning was a little bit slow to kind of reach into the romance. Just overall, I kind of wish certain things were picked up a little bit more, but I liked it. I thought it was unique. I am a big fan of Jasper. It was cute, it made me laugh, it made me giggle, but it wasn't my favorite romance book of all time. So I 3-starred it, but I definitely recommend it. It's not necessarily YA, it's not really spicy at all really, but it's not YA, it's more adult characters and adult paced, but I definitely recommend it. And then my final book that I talked about in my video last week of my favorite books of 2022 is In a Jam by Katie Canterbury. I still have not taken my bookmark out. I finished reading it and left my bookmark in. This is one of the first romance books that made me feel something in a while. I feel like I've read so many romance books at this point that it's like, oh, I liked it, that was cute. It's just a romance book. This one like made me feel something, like it made me feel like butterflies and giggly and like I thought it was cute. I annotated parts of it. It was adorable, I loved it. It was so good. So this is small town romance, single dad-esque. It's like an uncle that is taking care of a niece permanently. The back of it says, one jilted bride who didn't see it coming, one single dad who didn't sign up for this, 1 year to get married or they lose the family farm. Slit with a pinch of precious niece who aspires to be a pirate, 12 untrustworthy hens, and a heap of fruity earrings. Fake dating, single dad-esque, kind of a second chance romance, boy falls first, small town romance. Our main character, she gets left at the altar at her wedding, so she is kind of sworn off love, like all the ingredients that make such a good book. Good spice, it's a good plot. I love the niece character. I feel like sometimes kids in books are written weirdly, where it's like, oh, this kid is 5, but he's giving the advice of someone who's 25, or they're like 8, but they're written like with the goofiness of a 2-year-old. Like, I feel like sometimes kids aren't written well, but I liked the way that the niece was written in this book. I liked the banter and the dynamic. I liked the small town themes. Overall, I thought it was really good, and it made me giddy and feel things. So if you want a really cute romance with some good spice in all of my aforementioned tropes, I highly, highly, highly suggest this one. This was one of my favorite reads of the month and one of my favorite reads of the year. If you can see my pajama pants, I'm also wearing these again because alcohol. But yeah, these are all the books that I have read in December at the end of 2022. Welcome to 2023. Lots of good things, lots of exciting things coming. I'm excited. I don't know what to expect. No one does. I guess we'll see what happens. I am not like a New Year's resolution girly, never have been. But if I was, my resolution would be to make you happy. I'm gonna go now. If you want to follow me anywhere on my social medias, they are linked down below, as well as on my end card screen. Down below is also my PangoBooks if you want to buy mine or other people's used books. It's a good way of bookish things for your bookish friends at a cheaper price. Basically an online thrift store for books. Down below is also my Amazon wishlist. If you want to send me any books I already have on there or your favorite ones, I have it changed so you can add books to that list and send them to me. So send me your favorite books if you want to force me to read them. Enjoy your beginning the new year. Hopefully, again, if you have a hangover, it doesn't last long. And I love you, and I will see you in a few days for the beginning of 2023 and see where this crazy year takes us. Hopefully no more paninis and no more big issues with civil rights. Hopefully we can go back to maybe something more 2019 and we can chill for a minute, but I highly doubt that that will happen because we live in America, or at least I do, and it's not always great here. Goodbye, I love you. I will see you somewhere else on the internet.